space for thoughts. And then by just getting back into the meditation thing, I think I reignited my creative force. I can't believe I'm talking like this.
Did you notice how silent I'd gone?
Yes, that alerted me.
Yes.
To the fact that I was talking in an uncharacteristically moving fashion.
Well, and interesting way, actually.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Hello, how are you?
All right, how are you? And you're 2 minutes early.
I am. And I'm all prepared as well. Don't I?
God.
I know. Right, so what's been happening in your week then?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can do. We had a Write Club meeting yesterday with an author, a published author, 4 or 5 times over. And she gave us lots of tips about how to find an agent, what to watch out for with an agent, how to make sure your agent's doing a good job when they go to the publishers, etc., etc. She writes historical fiction set in the medieval times forward, but with a feminist slant. So she's always writing about strong female characters.
Okay.
And that was quite interesting. And then what else happened? I wrote my first poem in many years and submitted it to the Yeovil Literary Competition or something similar. Yeah, Bath or Yeovil, I think it was.
Yeovil's about 3 minutes from where I'm living at the moment. Well, no, it's actually about 20, but that's where I went to visit my friend that I invited myself around to, who I only know through Facebook.
Yeah. So I'm now enrolled in a course, and I'm going to tell you about that later. Oh, no, I might as well tell you now.
About poems?
Yes.
You see, I have a client who's a proper writer, and she writes poems as well. And I always wanted to write songs. And I think, and it's a bit like Twitter in a way, the form. In fact, I'm going, do you know what? In my notes for later today, I'm going to talk about poetry as well. Isn't that funny? I'll save what I was going to say about it until later.
Yeah, well, I met that poet in Greece, and he writes very sparingly. He's from Manchester, interesting enough, and he writes very sparing poetry, very economic, and I like that a lot. And I was mooching around his website. I was thinking, oh, it'd be really nice. And then we were out the other night, and Sarah took a lovely picture of the moon on the water, and I just thought I felt moved to write a poem. I mean, I compiled the first verse, doggerel, I think you'd call it, and then I did a little bit more work on it when I saw the. Because I didn't have time to put in any of my writing, my proper writing. So I thought I'll just dash a poem in. You never know, nobody else might.
Well, do you know, in a way as well, I think poetry is even more proper writing because it's harder. You've got fewer words. You've got the restrictions of form. It's very disciplined. And when it works, it blows your socks off.
Yeah. And that's why we liked Twitter when it first started, wasn't it? The whole 140 characters thing.
Yes. Form, discipline is good for an artist, a creator.
Yes, I totally agree.
And interestingly, a structure I can bear.
Absolutely.
Because there's not just one of them, there's loads of them.
Well, yes, exactly. There's lots of different ones, exactly.
Yes.
So I Googled what is a poem.
Yeah.
And and obviously the Write Club ladies think I'm hilarious, you know. You write a poem and submit it for a competition.
Yes. They don't get the entrepreneur yet, do they?
No, they don't at all, no. It's like, oh my God, really?
Yeah, bang it out, bang it in.
Yeah, bang it out, bang it in. Expect to win.
Yeah.
I'm right there.
Yes.
I'm overwhelmed now. We just made a poem live on air.
Yeah.
Bang it out, bang it in. Expect to win.
We must never forget as well how much we both like the haiku.
Well, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Since you introduced me to it, I've loved that one.
It's interesting how we are both quite long-winded. We love to talk at length and write at length, but actually we're talking about short forms of expression. And it doesn't get much shorter than a haiku except Twitter.
I think we should reinvigorate the haiku, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I think we should own it. Should be the home of the haiku, shouldn't it? Now and again, when the listener or the podcaster feels so inspired.
So, should we have a haiku a month then? weave it into.
Why don't we just please don't make rules around it. Why don't we just do one when we feel like it?
Well, because I keep forgetting what the form is. So.
It's isn't it 575? 5 words, 7 words, 5 words. It's something like that. Very easy to look up.
Okay, expect a haiku from me very imminently.
All right. Okay.
You can look forward to that.
Okay.
The rest of my week, I'm going to be telling you about in the different sections.
Okay.
So your turn.
All right. So it's vaguely. It took me a while to wake up to this, but. Because it's a 30, I know this always confuses you, but I'll try and run it past you again. Because it's a 31-day month. Yeah. And my 10 monthly calls for Small Business Big Magic run on a 28-day repeating schedule. Every now and again, when there's a 31-day month, I get a week off. And I'm having my week off this week. Because, and frequently they coincide with bank holidays. So my next one will be at the end of August, for instance, probably. And coincidentally, this one, I could have worked it out in advance, but I didn't. It's also half term. So I'm having a deliciously quiet week. And on Mondays, which was a bank holiday in England, in the UK, my clients in Club 100 are required to send in a check-in, a weekly check-in. So I would have expected perhaps the overseas people who weren't having a bank holiday to send it in on Monday, and the UK people who were to send it in on Tuesday. Not a single report came in from a client this week. No complaints from me, obviously, because that's work I don't have to do. But it means they're all off having a lovely life. So I could almost say my work here is done. They're having a lovely, lovely, lovely life. But what I wanted to tell you about was an adventure I went on Sunday. Because one of the people I invited myself over to see was a male cousin and his wife, who lives about 40 minutes away from here in Somerset and has always lived in that same house for the 40 years since he got married. He's 1 year older than me. He's very set in his ways, and I kind of got the vibe, even though all my correspondence in advance was with his very polite wife who wouldn't have said no under any circumstances. I kind of got the vibe. I kind of know him well enough over the years to get the vibe that he probably wasn't looking forward to my visit. He's very Somerset, and I think they think the Morgans are a bit hoity-toity, down from London, Brexiteers, Ramonas, all that kind of stuff. Also, he's not particularly sociable. I don't think he goes out of his way. He likes his life set in his ways. His wife told me in the email in advance he must have his Sunday lunch, that kind of a vibe. Anyway, I've been to their house twice, I think, in my life, so twice in 40 years. And I had the address, but at first pass, I drove past the house because it's 11 years since the last time I went there. And the last time I went there, it was his 50th birthday, their significant wedding anniversary, and their son's 18th birthday or 21st birthday, something like that. So 3 family celebrations in their garden with a tent. Big do. All my cousins were there, which in those days were, and a few aunties and uncles, which I haven't got so many of those anymore now. So my cousin and I are down. We started with, I think, 11 cousins. So we're down to about 4, 5, perhaps. They haven't all dead, but they're not all dead. But there's some estrangement that's gone on in our family, which means that we don't have direct connection with some of them. Anyway, when I turned up and overshot his house, I could see that he was on a ride-upon mower mowing the edges in the front of his house along the side of the road, and I could tell it was him from the back of his head because he's got my grandpa's DNA, my brother's DNA. He just looked like Morgan/Simmons, which is the other half of our family. And I pulled up in the middle of the road in a rather dangerous manoeuvre and looked at him out of the window, and he was a bit hot and sweaty because it was a hot day and he was mowing, and he gesticulated that I'd overshot. And so I went back and I parked very neatly so he could get his ride-upon mower in the garage. And I went into the house, and the first hour, I would say, was quite strained. But as the lunch was, shall we call it, interesting. But as the day wore on, and he had a few drinks, and his son and daughter-in-law and his daughter and son-in-law came round with their babies, one of whom was less than a year and one of which was less than a month. And he was so proud of them, and they were all so beautiful, and the sunshine was out, and he relaxed into my company, and he proudly walked me around the garden. Towards the end of the day, he got quite tearful, and he's a man after my own heart. So he said to me more than once, I wasn't looking forward to your visit, but you've turned out to be an absolute delight. I'm so thrilled you've come. I've had a lovely day. He said all of these really lovely things, which I already knew he was feeling for the same reason I knew he was feeling he wasn't looking forward to it before I came. Yeah. So it was and I was so happy when I left. I phoned my brother, and my brother was really proud of the kind of job I'd done there. But also, Robert, my cousin, is like my brother, but without the same opportunities. So my brother went to a posh school and Robert didn't. And my brother's travelled the world and Robert didn't. I don't think Robert's even got a passport. They describe their holidays. They've been to Scotland, St Ives and Salcombe. I think that's probably the 3 holidays they've had in their married life. You know, they're only but for circumstances is Robert in Robert's situation and my brother in my brother's situation. Do you know what I mean? They're identical. They're the same height. So Robert looked like my grandpa. He looked like both of his parents at times. And of course, all of those people have shuffled on. He lent me a walking stick and he showed me proudly around his field where they've got dozens of chickens. And he's been he was self-employed until 2011 when his business failed. Ostensibly through no fault of his own. And both his son and son-in-law asked me if I would go over and show them how to read their own account. It was just the most wonderful family day. And I told him that I knew the people that lived in our grandparents' farm, and I was going down to see their next door neighbours, who's the sister of my oldest school friend, and go and see the farm that we remembered when we were less than 5, Robert and I. And we both have these fond memories of this farm in beautiful countryside in Dorsetshire, which is where it all began, where our story all began, you know, and where our parents were, you know, fun young farmers who went to parties and lived the high life and got married and all of that sort of thing. It was just, and I told him that I was christened on this tiny little chapel on that farm. And he said, "Oh, I've got a present for you then." And he went upstairs and he brought down this, what my parents would have called a silver salver, which is like a decorative silver round tray. I don't know what you do with them. I think your butler brings you a drink on it, frankly. I've no idea what you do with it. But on the back, it had a picture, an engraving of this tiny, tiny micro chapel that I was christened in. And he wasn't. And he said, "Oh, I want to give this to you." And I said, "Look, don't give it to me now, but leave it to me in your will." And he goes, "Well, that rather presupposes you're going to die after me, doesn't it?" So, you know, it was just a lovely, can you get what I'm saying, really? It was just lovely. You know, and I felt quite brave in advance. I was a bit nervous, and he clearly was too. But, you know, our DNA, our genes, our shared history, our love of our, you know, the fun times and that we can remember, you know, won us both over to each other despite our differences.
Yeah. Well, you know, exactly that. You pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. You did something again, weird that you don't normally do.
I know, so weird.
And, you know, against adverse circumstances. And then it just turned into a jolly life-affirming day where you remember the benefit of having a family.
Exactly. And when I saw my first cousin the other day in the pub in Dorchester, and reported it to my brother. He said, "You know, you've got another cousin not so far away." I said, "I do. I've already opened negotiations with them." But I wasn't looking forward to that one, so I did that one second, if you know what I mean. But
I'm amazed by you. I mean,
I'm amazed by myself, Nicola. In tomorrow's newsletter, I just talk about how amazed I am by myself. I think it's because when I was in Kent, I was living in a stately pile, which was absolutely beautiful. It had this gorgeous walled garden. It had beautiful trees to see from the window. It had a fantastic desk space for me to write with these beautiful Georgian windows. I never needed to go anywhere. Here, I haven't even unpacked. I think if I hadn't left the building, I would have gone mental. And also there is a difference, which is the geography. You know, that in Somerset, where I went to school and half of my family live, and in Dorset, where the other half of my family live, I'm within 40 minutes of all of it. So it would just be mad not to take the opportunity while I'm geographically local to, I mean, and there's a mild curiosity about members of my family as well. The nice ones, not the nasty ones.
Yeah, well, it's a bit, well, you know, it's totally the same, isn't it? I came here and I've got, you know, I had to go social life that's quite exhausting.
Yes. It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is funny. Obviously, you know, we're meant to change locations, and otherwise you get stuck in.
You get pushed into it. I mean, you know, having been pushed into coming down here and being so miserable for the first month, my life has transformed in the second month. And that happened, I think I said this before, that happened when I moved into my last flat in London. I was miserable for a month. And then the sun came out and I jollied up and I realised how wonderful life was.
Yeah.
And I think that is life, isn't it? We just buffeted from, well, look at your example, misery and grief and bereavement into sunshine and happiness and new friendships you could never have imagined.
And writing poetry.
Yeah, I know.
Never thought I'd do that.
No.
Right. So what's fueled your fire then?
Yes, well, just before half term, as we call it around here, 3 new clients joined Small Business Big Magic.
Wow.
And apart from my new low carb clients, which was in about March, I don't think I've had any new year-long clients in either group since sort of the usual January intake. So it was weird that in 10 days, 3 people joined. And the point I wanted to make for the benefit of the listener is as follows. They are an artist and a hypnotist and someone setting up a business she's had in her heart for a very long time. And 2 of them I've only met in 2018, either directly or indirectly from the book. But the third one I've known since 2014, perhaps longer. So a gentle reminder again to the listener that a client can be in your marketing pipeline for a very long time, or a long time, or a very long time, or a medium length of time. And it doesn't mean you won't make any money while you wait for them, but it does remind us we never know who's psyching themselves up one day to work with us if we can hang around long enough.
Yeah, quite. And the other thing is I wanted to say to you is that I keep seeing you set up your shop on Facebook page.
Yes.
I keep seeing, I don't know if you're sharing them occasionally in rotation or something, your products, but I keep seeing your products in my timeline, and it just reminds me that you've got products and what they are and what they cost.
I share them every day deliberately.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think before I share them, what do I want today? Do I want a new client in Small Business Big Magic? Would I like to sell a book? Do I want a new low-carb client? What do I think? Do I want a one-off consultation? I've got everything in my shop, and I just share either the sort of groups of products, so the bookshop, or the coaching products. I don't do it every day. This morning I thought to myself, I don't think I need to share from my shop today. So I go on but most days, first thing in the morning, I share something from my shop.
Well, it looks good. It doesn't look too pushy. It just looks like a gentle reminder of what you've got to offer. And I just wanted to give you that feedback.
And in the main, they have a contact me button, don't they? So people can talk to me about it without necessarily the first thing they do being to buy. Yeah.
Well, I think I need to set something like that up. I haven't got lots of products, but I do.
So easy, Nicola.
Books and
so easy to set up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing to do is set up one for what you want them to do. So you can set up a free one for them to join your 30-day challenge, probably.
Yes.
And then they're in your process. You could probably set one up for joining the Clicks and Leads Academy.
Yes, and then set one up for a consultation.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Do you know, you could do it today in half an hour. It's very, very fast.
Okay. And you don't need to have that Go Social thing that you've got?
No.
Okay.
What is Go Social? No, do you mean social? No. This is completely separate from this. It's a Facebook shop.
Okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's so easy. I think we should challenge the listener. If you've got things you want to sell, products or services, set up a Facebook shop. It takes half an hour.
Yeah.
You do need a graphic, and one of my graphics is a bit duff. I need to change it. Somebody gave me some feedback that the graphic's not working on my consultation. It's too big. But, and, that's the least of my problems, quite frankly. But I will get around to it one day, and I've nothing better to do, as I always like to say.
Yes, quite.
Yeah.
You've got nothing better to do except thinking.
Exactly. What's fueled your fire?
I was feeling a little bit weird the other day, and I thought, I need to get back to meditating. And then I suddenly thought...
Get back to it? You've stopped?
Well... I didn't stop. What happened was I just totally forgot about it. And I've totally forgot about Michael Neal's 90-day.
Me too. I forgot about Michael Neal's. I forgot about something. I had 3 rituals going on. And when I moved from Kent to Somerset, I forgot all about all 3 of them.
Well, that's what happened to me when I went to England. I completely forgot about it all. And then I came back with Sarah, and we've had quite a busy time. And I suddenly thought, oh, my God, I've totally forgotten about everything I was doing. So I got back on the horse, as it said. And
well, that's what I say to my low-carb clients, get back on. We just get back on. That's all we do, get back on.
So I started, and the thing was, I'd been thinking I should do something, and I couldn't really work out how I could work out how to do it, but I was feeling resistance, and I didn't really want to do it. So I thought, no, I'm going to put this on hold, and I actually cancelled something on Sunday because I wasn't ready for it, because I've been resisting doing the prep work for it. Then, and I really don't like doing that at all, but I had to do it. So then I thought, okay, so I'm going to go back. And yesterday morning day before yesterday I did meditation. Yesterday I did meditation, and yesterday, after I'd done the meditation, something popped into my head when I was in the shower. These are all big clues, everyone. Meditating, shower.
Yeah.
And it was a different way of doing it, a more enjoyable way of doing it, a more nice for the client way of doing it. And the day that I started on again was about allowing the creative force. So about not pushing, but learning to rely on the creative force coming through. And about allowing. And so I think by cancelling the thing I'd cancelled, I made space for thoughts. And then by just getting back into the meditation thing, I think I reignited my creative force. I can't believe I'm talking like this.
Did you notice how silent I'd gone?
Yes, that alerted me.
Yes.
To the fact that I was talking in an uncharacteristically moving fashion.
Well, and interesting way, actually.
Yeah, and I do believe that is what happened. And I came back to it's a masterclass idea, basically, because, I talked about how Yvonne Halling does one for her business.
Yes.
I was a bit inspired to do one. But what was really getting to me was the fact that I felt I needed to do it at the weekend. I felt I needed to do it live. I felt I needed to do it in a certain way. And it was just making me feel, I really don't want to. And then it came back to me that I could do it in a totally different way. I feel all fueled and fired.
Well, I think we've got to do anything in the way that suits us, or not at all.
Yes, I know, but it's hard to do that.
Well, is it? I think there's a way. If you're feeling that resistance, which you did,
yes,
and you found a way around it, or you
began, I have now.
Yeah. I think that unless you can find that way round the resistance. And it's not just resistance for resistance' sake. Do you know what I mean? Amongst people who don't do anything, that's not you. Yeah. Okay. No, it isn't. So that you do have a full range of resistances, but you usually find a way around them because you've got that blokey push through type of thing that goes on. But with my clients who are slightly different from you, more yin perhaps, and more allowing, I would encourage them, to find the way to do it, or not at all. Now, do you remember we used to talk before you got into meditation about, you used to say, what on earth do you do when you're not doing anything? And I used to say, well, I sit in silence and I think. There's a lovely little post I put on Facebook this morning, which is a share your memory from 2 years ago. I think you'll appreciate this today, which you wouldn't have been able to appreciate 2 years ago. The present moment is the playground within which the most extraordinary life is possible. So all that meditation and all that silence and all that showering and all those genius ideas come to you. They come from silence, sitting in the now.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a miracle. That's what it is, Nicola. It's a miracle.
It is. And all it took was me getting over the whole thing of, and it was very interesting because I was watching
the whole thing off. Finish that.
I was just about to illustrate what I'm trying to say by talking about Russell Brand, because he's in the 12-step program, and I've just read his book, which is really good, and it talks about the 12-step program. And the thing that has always worried me about the 12-step program, not that I'm about to go into one or anything, but it's the whole God thing.
Yes,
But once you can readjust that whole thing into spiritual force, it's creative force, or
your higher self.
All of that stuff. Yeah, and Russell Brand explained it. I shared a video in it. I shared it for other reasons, actually, because he was talking very articulately about the whole how we're being, created into little consuming units of energy, he called us.
Yes.
And I thought that was really good. But anyway, in that same video, he talks about this whole thing of how he had to get round the thought of some bloke with a beard upstairs directing operations before he could commit to the 12-step program.
I wonder why you and Russell Brand share this. It must be something to do with the education you both have, that the sense that God was an old man with a white beard. I never had that.
Didn't you?
I mean, I know that. I know that's what we're taught in school, but my sense of God was never that.
You went to much more traditional schools than I did. So where did I get it from?
Well, it might not have been the education, certainly I didn't like religious studies. I don't think I sat it for a little. And if you remember at the beginning of my book, it opens with me talking about, my first rebellion was refusing to be confirmed. So I think it might have been English literature and all the wide reading that I did, where poets and thinkers explain their different versions of God.
Okay. Yeah,
or maybe just an inner woo-woo where I just knew I was slightly spooky and I had this sort of awareness that it was me as well, that that God, the essence, the sort of Brian Cox type of essence, was in me and I'm in God type of thing. And I've often rather apologetically over the years said, if you can't call it God, call it anything you like. And it almost doesn't need explaining to the right reader, I don't think. But I'm glad for people like you and Russell Brand that clearly had a different indoctrination, let's call it, that you found a way around it, because it isn't about God and the Bible and religion.
Yeah. I think it's a black and white thinking, which addicts traditionally.
Oh yes, yes.
So if there's anything up there, it's got to be the bloke with the beard.
Yes, I see. Yes, yes.
Good. Anyway, moving swiftly on, because
no. Before we do, I need to summarise this section. So you were feeling weird. You went back to meditation, and that led to a shower, which led to a way to sort your masterclass idea out.
Yes.
Okay,
and that fueled my fire, because I came at it from a creative, fun, light, angle,
which is always our choice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
much prefer that, don't we?
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Okay, so focus of the week then. Now, we put out a call last week. Let's do that again. We love to hear from you. We love to hear your challenges. We love to hear your dilemmas, and it helps us enormously to make this podcast fun and good, because we need things to talk about. And so
we need real challenges. We don't want to talk around whatever your issues are. We'd like to talk to your issues.
Yeah, exactly. So this has come in from someone we know very well, who works in a quite a high-profile industry, and she says, I keep feeling like there is a big need for one specific topic. I just did a very successful big workshop on that topic, and all my content ends up being about that topic at the moment, but repackaged for each thing I do. I have a great colleague who gives me loads of advice and is really supportive and is about 2 years ahead of me. But she calls herself the XXX coach. So insert word of topic for the XXX. Okay. And she does it brilliantly. So, and we mutually respect each other. Now, just a little sidebar there. Just by calling herself this thing, this woman has claimed this space. Yep. So if you want to claim a space, that's the way to do it.
Yep.
She says, I don't even want to watch her content, as I'm scared I'll just want to nick it or, subconsciously mirror it. If you were to and she said, I keep feeling like I want to have a conversation with this woman, but I don't know what to say. So I asked a very good coachy question, which was, if you were to have a conversation with this woman, what would you want to say?
Marvellous. A Michael Neal question, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. And she said, I really love what you do. This is what she'd want to say. I really love what you do. I'm also really passionate about it, and you're going to start seeing me online doing videos about it. But then I find myself wanting to say, is that okay? Which is ridiculous. Or, please don't be annoyed with me, which is also ridiculous. Well, I suppose what I want to say is, I'm not trying to tread on your toes, but I need to do the things that align with my passion. So I've been holding back because I don't want to appear like I'm treading on your toes. Ha, brackets, that's a bad sentence. But then I get lost in, she's not going to care anyway, and she may be offended that I even thought she would care. How would you two handle this? And it was such an interesting topic. I thought we should...
Oh, do you want to go first?
I have felt like this on occasions. Not when I was the money gymming, because I was sort of the first to market with that concept. But I do get a twang sometimes when other people come along and style themselves as, even though I'm not doing it anymore, I get a twang because I sort of felt like that was my space. And if you vacate a space, you can't expect other people not to vacate it. But on this, but then going into new markets, I have definitely felt that other people were there doing it better, or doing it different, or doing it well. So, but I've always felt that I would bring something unique to it, so I haven't really worried about that too much. And certainly don't. But I think if I was friendlier with someone like this lady is with her other person, I think you would feel a little bit awkward, wouldn't you? So you perhaps would want to have a conversation about it, but definitely not an asking permission conversation. And the final thought about it is there's so much business for everyone, and there's so much abundance out there that you can't think that you'll be taking their clients, because they'll be doing it in a different way and attracting different people. What do you think?
I think almost exactly the same thing as you. I wrote down one word in preparation for my answer, unique, and you've used it, which is some people will be drawn to the other woman, and some people will be drawn to this woman. And although the topic is, she's saying specific, I'm imagining it's broadly the same. It's going to come to the world through a different filter of the two individuals. I personally would probably not have that conversation, simply because I don't look at the market before I launch what I launch. I don't compare myself with another human being ever. I totally agree with you, and I think you probably helped me come to this understanding as part of the Money Gym, or helped me be aware of this. And I bang on about it in my book a lot. You know, there are 7 billion people in the world, and that other woman can't serve all of them. Even the two of them can't serve all of them.
Yeah.
It's interesting. She says, at the moment, I feel like I want to make everything about this specific topic. I mean, I know who our client is, and I'm not going to say her name, and I'm not even going to say the name of what she does, but she's very specific in the name of what she does. And I don't know how that crosses over with the specific topic of this other woman. I love it that she says she's brilliant and she's respect. I'd probably do what I see Sally, my astrologer, do, which is share everybody else in your same space's stuff abundantly, knowing that your take on it is unique.
Yeah, and I really used to consciously...
So share the other woman's stuff.
Yeah. And I still do that, actually. I think it is a very abundant thing to do. And I also think that it's perhaps not served me so well in the past, but I can't do anything else, because if I respect people and I'm sharing something of theirs, I have to credit them.
I agree. And to know that, me too. And I think, well, it's the only ethical way to carry on. But also, I think, there's no requirement on us when, assuming our client follows this other woman on social media, there's no requirement. A scarce person would see it go by and ignore it. An abundant person sees it goes by and share it. And sometimes you're right, that does us a disservice. They think we're recommending that they go and work with them instead of with us. Yeah. But I wouldn't watch their output either, for the same reason that our client is talking about, which is you don't want to accidentally, it's better it's cleaner if you don't know the content, then you can't accidentally plagiarize it or use it. And I think that everything I see, watch, read, listen to, whether it's entertainment or education or other people's content, all goes in my melting pot and comes out through my own filter. And it isn't like the other woman actually invented this topic. She's just a couple of years ahead of our client, who shares the same brilliance and expertise and is held in respect as well. Yeah. I don't think I would want to have that conversation, not because I'm a weed, but because I don't think it needs to be had.
No, because there's no copyright on this thing, is there?
No copyright on ideas. Obviously, if the urge to have this conversation is beginning to disable or block our client in any way, then she's going to have to find a way to have that. She might do a sort of, I don't imagine she's terribly woo-woo, our client, but she might be. You know, she could have that conversation in writing. And I don't mean to send her a letter, I mean to write it and then lose it, or burn it, hide it, you know what I'm saying? Just because those words in her body need to come out, perhaps.
Yes, and perhaps even writing it to us might have helped.
Yes.
That'd be. I will be seeing her, so I will ask.
I'm trying to think of a similar example. Like you, I think when I see the newcomers come into the wealth creation space, I sometimes feel a little bit of a pang, especially when some of my current clients didn't know that I did that work with you for a decade. It's like, I think, why aren't they asking me about that? Well, of course, they don't know to ask me about that, is the point, because they don't know what I did in the noughties. They only know what I'm doing in the tweenies, whatever we call this decade we're in. I don't. I wouldn't fuss about most of it, but then that's my personality.
Yeah, and
I'd crack on.
Yeah, crack on with it. and you know, the thing is, if the other woman's got an issue with it, she could initiate a conversation.
She could, yes.
That'll be. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk says he never looks at other people's stuff.
No, I think that's the thing. Grow your confidence and self-confidence. Look at what Michael Neal calls your warm fuzzies. Save all your nice feedback in a file that you can go and look at and see. Get a really clever, close, good, strong understanding of what people appreciate in you, and sell from that place, come from that place, create from that place, which is, our unique opportunity in the world, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I don't regard myself as an innovator in any way. I regard myself as someone with a very strong, unique filter. So, when I read things, I'm like a magpie. I'll pick things up, and if they resonate with me, then I know that they will probably resonate with my ideal client, because my ideal clients are often awfully like me. So it's, I don't worry about that. I can't remember, was it Thomas Lennon or someone in the music industry that said, don't worry about regurgitating, because you're not regurgitating. You're putting your own unique spin on it. Your own thoughts.
And I got an image then of if you were running if you were Usain Bolt and you were running that 100 meters race or whatever it is he runs in the Olympics, you haven't got time to look around at the other people. Because every second you spend looking over your shoulder it slows you down.
Yeah, it does. And that is...
Run your own race. There we go. That's it. Run your own race. And be aware of other people and be respectful of other people. But I don't think it impinges on your own intentions, your own business, your own goals here. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people in the world doing what we do. And our clients have a choice who they do it with.
Yeah, and that thing about, was it Elizabeth Gilbert that talked about all the ideas are floating out there in the ether, and you reach up and pluck one down. But the whole zeitgeist thing as well. I mean, we're not going to say what this topic is that this lady is concerned about, but actually I know there's 2 or 3 coaches in the internet marketing space that are talking about this topic as well. In the last year or so.
Yes.
So it's obviously a zeitgeist kind of topic.
But in a way that's good, because you're not trying to convert the world to a thing that nobody's heard of. The more noise there is in your niche, the better.
Yeah, because you're not trying to educate people.
Yeah, you're not trying to start from scratch.
Yeah, in fact, the course I did when I first came to Greece was exactly on this topic. And there's loads of people doing it, but you'll do it differently to everybody else. Don't worry about that.
Or you'll do it uniquely.
Yes. And
people will choose you. Well, there you go. There's a reason to be very as personal as you dare in your marketing, so that people can choose you, the human being they want to work with, to study these materials that are out there in plain sight. Yeah.
Talking of that, I accidentally put an unedited video up yesterday. Totally unedited. I had edited it, but I obviously saved it as something and got confused about what I'd saved it as. And one of my clients Facebook messaged me in the afternoon and said, I know you believe in being authentic, but how authentic do you mean? Because I think you've just put up an unedited video.
And actually your clients often say that, don't they? Because there was an example of that once before. Do you remember?
Yes, yeah. And actually, as it happened, Sarah started watching it on the beach and she said, oh, yes, it is unedited completely.
What does that mean, that you swore and belched?
No, I didn't swear and belch, luckily. And I wasn't adjusting my bosoms, as my clients suggested I might have been, which would have been much worse than what I was doing. But it was just an unedited video, and only 48 people saw it, luckily, before she alerted me and we pulled it down.
Yes.
But so you have to. So have we done this topic? Anything else? Any other final thoughts about it? So you don't ever feel this. You don't ever feel that you'll.
No, I'm very strong in my sense of individuality, my uniqueness, and I'm very much aware that what I'm selling is Judith Morgan. Do you want to work with me? And either my clients feel that, or they don't. And there's the Marmite thing. I hate Marmite, actually, but there's the Marmite thing, isn't it? Which you want to draw the people towards you who want to work with you, not the people who wish they were working with the other one, Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I do sometimes. I mean, when I read a new book or something, it gets pulled into my toolbox, as it were. and only the best survive that toolbox. So, but sometimes I read something or I watch something or I hear something and I know that it's immediately a good fit for my toolbox.
Yes.
I do immediately start talking about it, but I do always credit the author and send people to find out more if they want to. So I think as long as you're doing that, then you're fine. But my unique mix of tools in my toolbox is different to your unique mix of tools.
And our filter, I mean, we have some tools in common, but our filter of them is different.
Yeah. And how we use them.
Yes, yeah.
That's a nice analogy, isn't it? I like that a lot.
Well, it's like a kaleidoscope, isn't it? It's like we can. I'm doing it with my hands. You can move the tube round, and it gives you an infinite number of different patterns based on the same core components.
How does it do that?
I don't know, but I think the thing for our client is to strengthen your sense of self, who you are, what your unique offering is, even though the topic is broadly the same, and how you can feel better and stronger and more equal. I don't see that you have any difficulties in that area at all.
No, because they'll also be bringing in other things into the mix.
Well, she's a total pro.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you'll be bringing in different. Think, recipe or a toolbox, and you'll be bringing in different elements and combining them in a way that's completely unique to you. Yeah, cool. Okay, good stuff. So I hope that helps. So do send us your challenges, and we'd love to tackle real life challenges.
So what was that challenge, Nicola? What am I going to call this week's show?
We're going to call that imposter syndrome. No,
it's not that, really, is it?
Oh, is it? It's about following in the footsteps of giants, kind of thing. That's too long for a time.
No, it's about is somebody who does something the same as me. Am I a copycat?
Oh, that's very good.
Is it that?
Yes.
Is it that?
Yes.
Am I a copycat?
A haiku length title.
Am I a copycat? Okay.
What's your word of the week then?
Truth. The healing power of for a writer. And in Who or What's Impressed, I'm going to tell you about a writer, and that's what brought forth that word for me.
Okay. Well, it's always a good word, isn't it? Unfortunately, we've all got different versions of reality. So
yes, we have. Not the same thing quite, but yes, we have. Yeah.
Steve and I used to argue about this on a regular basis.
Yes.
I think I had a completely different view of reality.
Well, I think reality isn't the same thing as truth, is it? But yes, we all live in different realities. I agree with Steve.
So you can only tell your truth, can't you?
Yes, that's right. And as a writer, that's what I want to do, and that's what I'll come back to in a minute.
Okay. Mine's allowing, because it's a word that I haven't traditionally got on with because it sounds a bit passive and a bit wimpy, but feeling the power of it this week, I am a new convert to the power of allowing.
And do you know what I love about it?
What?
It's a lot less hard work. And I'm not afraid of hard work, but if the solution comes easily, wouldn't you rather have that than it come after struggle?
Yes. You just have to be a bit more patient.
Yes, you do have to be a bit patient. And actually, you remember that thing we talked about fairly recently about rushing to a solution because it's less painful than sitting there?
Yes.
Sometimes the space can be difficult, but that's where the meditation helps, I think, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, because it puts you in a nice frame of mind. Okay, project updates then.
I do have a small one. Have you got one?
Well, I've got two.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I was looking at our final figures for May, 2,203, whereas I think the two previous months were in the 5,000s and the one before that was 1,500 or something, 1,700. So we did end up in May. We're getting good, regular amounts of downloads. But I did look at the all-time figure. Would you like to know what the all-time?
Yes, I would. Do you know what? Last night I thought I need to ask Nicola what the all-time figure was. I would like to know that. Yeah.
Well, it's like I was telepathic.
Yeah.
You brace yourself.
I'm braced.
78,395 downloads.
Amazing, isn't it?
That's nearly 80,000 downloads.
Have you got a calculator?
Yeah, could have.
Can you divide that by 183 so we can see the average per episode?
Is that how many we've done then, is it?
Yes. That's how many we've published. This is 184 today and we haven't published it yet. So
5
divided by
183. 428.
Yeah, so more than 400 people a week listen to our show. That's worth doing, isn't it?
It is. And as I'm a glass half full girl, I'd call that nearly 500 a week.
Yes, of course. Nearly 500 people a week listen to our podcast.
That was another thing Steve and I used to argue about. My being
500 is reality and 428 is the truth. Oh, dear.
Oh, no, hilarious. What's yours then?
Well, this week I'm up to recording on my little individual podcast, questions 41 to 44 out of 52 in my book. A lot of work has gone into it, but one of my correspondents is a chap, and he's written to say that the sort of work he does makes podcasts by far the best way for him to consume information such as my book. Sorry, he did buy a copy of the book, but he listened all the questions up to number 40, which is as far as I got to the recording. He listened to them when he was going about his work. Then he finished the book the night before last, and he had to read questions 41 to 52 because I haven't, I'm doing them at 4 this week, 4 next week, and 4 next week to finish them off. And he said, had I thought about if it was available on Audible, he would have paid another £3.85 to have the audio version alongside the book version. My point here is, thank goodness I went to all the trouble of recording them, even if just for him. And I'm going to give you the same figures that you've just given me. And I know it's just not for him, because Audio Boom tells me that my tiny recordings, which are all between 2 and 10 minutes long, questions from the book and the Blogfest articles, that all I do is read them aloud. I've done 113 episodes, and they've been listened to a total of more than 6,000 times.
Wow.
And audio is such a powerful medium.
Well, it is, because people listen to your voice and they feel your emotions and they can tell. And it's funny, as you started to tell that story, I was thinking she ought to turn that into an audiobook.
Yes, but I always intended to do that, if you remember, and I had a consultation with Tom Evans about it. And Tom showed me how he did it, which is a tech bridge too far from me. And I'm not ready at the moment to consider the alternatives, which is, a studio and all that kind of thing. No. It's impossible in my current life circumstances. I told this chap, I'm glad I've made the little recordings for you, but I can't take up your advice right now, but I might at some point in the future.
So who or what's impressed then?
Well, you go first.
Okay, so you can get your breath back.
Yes.
Right. The Social Media Examiner newsletter is what's impressed. Yep. I have obviously been trying to unsubscribe from as many things as possible. I'm hoping that if I haven't confirmed, those reputable companies will not be continuing to email me, but I doubt that very much. But the Social Media Examiner newsletter is one that I do regularly open, and I actually have it so it comes into my main inbox. And it has had an awful lot of really good content, particularly around Facebook ads campaigns recently. Different ideas that have kept me fueled and fired on trying different things. And it came out with a really nice campaign the other day, which was about creating case study videos where you talk about a client and their challenge and the case study and how you work with them and what happened, what was the outcome. Even better would have been what Bernadette Doyle does, giving credit to one of my people I watch. She interviewed someone the other day on a Zoom, two-way Zoom.
Yeah. And
she boosted that. She put that video up and she boosted it. And then she's presumably creating an audience from the people who watch it more than, say, 25% of the way through, because it was quite long. And then you show testimonial videos to people who engage with your case study video. And only after you've created an audience of people who watch your testimonial videos through, say, 25% or more, do you then make an offer. And I thought that was a really nice, really good, really non-promotative way of doing Facebook ads. So I will be trialing that. And I just thought, and they really showed you screenshots about how to set the campaign up and everything. So it was a great long blog post. And that's another tip, actually. Great long 4,000-word blog post with audio, video, and screenshots apparently get an awful lot of attention. So you could expect to see more of those from me as well. What about you then? Who or what's impressed you?
Well, in the spooky way that we do so often, mine is David Baddiel on Desert Island Discs, which is a podcast. And do you know who David Baddiel is?
I do, yes.
He's a very clever man with a double first in English from Cambridge and a comedian. Wanted to be a pop star and wanted to be something else when he was growing up. And he grew up in a very similar family to mine, and he cries twice in his Desert Island Disc, once about his mum and once about his daughter. And he lives in the world of emotions, which his parents did not. When he got his double first, nobody in his family said anything. Nobody said neither his parents acknowledged it or said well done, and his dad didn't even come to his graduation.
Oh my God.
I know. And he had and Kirsty got quite hot under the collar and said, I'm feeling really quite antipathetic to your parents. And he said, well, in those days, and I'm totally with him on this, in those days, and he's probably a little bit younger than me, but not much, parenting wasn't a word. And your parents just got on with their big lives, and they had children as well. They didn't turn parenting into an art form, and they didn't really consider, they just had kids as another thing that they did, that they ticked off. But what he describes is the absolute truth of his writing, in all the writing that he does, children's books and comedy and musical and everything, is healing for him. That's why I said truth, the healing power of. And I feel very much that I want to write only my own truth, telling my life, not writing fiction. And what I have in common with him and how he inspired me was how that heals the failures of our parents in an era when parenting wasn't a word. But his last musical choice that he chooses, his last disc, is a poem. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but before the poem, he describes why poetry is so powerful, and the words, the language that he uses to describe that made me think, oh God, I need to read more poetry. So it's just brought together everything we've talked about today, and all the things that we're interested in, and inspired me to be a better version of me. And that so often happens on Desert Island Discs, which is in itself a podcast. So it's all kind of circular in the end there: poetry, writing, truth, and the power of audio.
Yes. Now, coincidentally, I saw his name mentioned in the foreword of a science fiction book I'm reading at the moment.
Yeah.
I really like enormously.
Okay.
One of my clients sent me 4 science fiction books by their favourite science fiction author.
Ah.
And I'll tell you who that is in a second. It is Michael Marshall Smith.
Okay.
And he must be a British science fiction writer, and he writes really beautifully. I mean, the sentences he puts together are a joy to read.
Yeah.
And in his foreword, he mentions David Baddiel.
Yeah. And do you remember as why? Can you say why?
Yeah, I'm just skimming it now.
We can always edit this gap if we need to.
Yes.
He's a clever man, he's a funny man, and he deals in truth. And it makes him cry. And that's the sort of writer I want to be.
We like people who get moved. That's, again, when someone does that on a podcast, I remember listening to, what's his name? 3 words, started Podcast Paradise, and the podcast.
John Lee Doomer.
Yeah, John Lee Doomer. He was interviewing someone, and they broke down on the show. And I remember I had to pull the car over and sit in the side of a road, and the emotion was just so intimate.
Yeah, one of my favourite podcasts, Alice gave me the clue to, I think, is about the London hospital surgeon who operates in the Middle Eastern war zones, and how he was single at my age and never expected to meet somebody, and then met somebody and fell terribly in love. And how he tells that story, I could cry now. Just, he broke down on Desert Island Discs as well.
There's a chap called Chris Heath, who's based in England but comes out to Greece a lot, and he's got a podcast called, what's it called, Sarah? Some cup of tea? No, I'll have to send it to you straight afterwards. But he's interviewing older people about their lives, and he's just interviewed one of my favourite people out here called Linda, who was brought up in the Appalachian Mountains and married 5 times, and was dirt poor, and her dad was a preacher, and really had a very, very difficult early life, but went on to do an MA at Brown University and be, a literary agent and things like that. So really, really amazing life. He's just interviewed her. I think you'd like that whole podcast, so I'm going to dig out the name of it.
Okay.
Yeah, might be 2 cups of tea, it's called.
Okay. Nice name for a podcast. Have you found the David Baddiel quote yet?
No, but I know where it is. Hold on. It's in my other book that I just started. Okay, so the first book I read of his was Spares, And the second book I'm reading now is called One of Us, and that's where the Badil thing is in.
And remind us what the author's name is again.
Michael Marshall Smith.
Okay.
Right, here we go. No, it just says to David Badil, along with some other people.
But he doesn't say why.
To David Badil. No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, nice. There you go. Maybe they went to Cambridge together or something.
Well, support and encouragement, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And writer to writer. Yes, we do. Yeah.
And on that note, let's finish up.
Okay. See you next week, Paul. Yeah. Bye for now.
How do they do it? Not a care and suffering. Wanna step into their world.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.